Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Amelia and I'm currently reading Black Wolves by Kate Elliott. So I started really getting back into reading a lot as an adult last year, and I set my goal for 50 books and I read 51, so I'm happy about that. But because I only started this channel about a month ago, I didn't get a chance to talk about all the books that I read last year, so I thought that I would go ahead and do a little tier ranking of every book that I read last year, so that you can kind of get an idea of what kind of books that I have been reading and what I like. So this is the tier ranking system that I have set up. At the top here, we've got Made Me Cry. There was one book that is going to go into this category, definitely my favorite book from last year. And then we have Chef's Kiss. These are probably going to be mostly like the books that I rated as 5-star reads. And then we have good reads. So these books were good, but they weren't like blowing my mind crazy. And then we have like not bad, like maybe I enjoyed reading this, but it wasn't like super enthralling or interesting. Then we have What Even Was This? There are a few books that I read that I rated quite lowly that I know are going to go in here. Then we have Harry Potter. I reread them last year because I already owned them, but because of the author's actions, I don't really want to put them with the rest of my books. I'm just gonna let them sit in their own thing and be what they were. And then we have You Disgust Me, which I created for one specific book. It's not necessarily that the book disgusted me as I was reading it. It's what I found out about the book after I read it that disgusted me. So let's go ahead and get started. I think I'm gonna try to go in the order that I read the books last year. All right, so the first book I read last year was Voyage of Freydis, and we're starting off badly, just like my reading year did, because this was not a good book. It was poorly written and the plot wasn't interesting. It's one of those books that really just relies on women being assaulted, and it just I don't know, the book didn't justify the violence, and yeah, it was just badly written. It felt like, I don't know, I hated it. Honestly, I hated it, and I don't recommend that you read it. And the next we have Song of Achilles, which I was glad to read after this because it's a very good book, and it saved my year of reading probably, because if I read another bad book right after the first bad book, I might have just stopped reading. But this I rated 5 stars, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in Chef's Kiss. Probably all my 5-star reads will go there. After that, I read Gardens of the Moon, so we're jumping right into some more intense fantasy reads. And this one, I think I give 4.5 stars. I definitely really enjoyed it. I felt that I know a lot of people don't like Malazan because of how complicated the world is, but I think the first one maybe doesn't feel as complicated because I didn't totally get that. There are definitely a lot of characters and things happening, but I really enjoyed the first one. I think I'm gonna put it in good reads. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't perfect, you know? And I think Chef's Kiss has got to be for those really high top tier books. Next I read Madeline Mittler's other book, Circe, and I also gave this one 5 stars, so I feel like I have to put it in Chef's Kiss, but it's not as good as Achilles, so I'm going to put it under that. After that, I read the only nonfiction book that I read last year. I read The Inconvenient Indian, and it was good and it had some interesting insights, but I wouldn't say that it was I don't know that I really learned that much from it, and the writing was decent, but at some point, I don't know. It's hard for me to remember honestly what I thought about these books. I'm kind of just going on what star rating I gave them, but this one, I'm gonna say it was good. I might change it later. We'll see. Next I read Jade City by Fonda, and I really enjoyed this one. It was definitely I never read an urban kind of fantasy before, and I think you would call this one that. So I really enjoyed it. The magic system was really unique, and it felt more kind of adult fantasy. Well, I know it's adult fantasy, but because the characters aren't super young, it feels even more adult than some of the other adult fantasies, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. That one is going at the top of Goodreads for me. Although I still haven't finished the rest of the series, I should do that. Next I read Baptism of Fire, and honestly, some of the Witcher books kind of are blending together for me. I'm not always remembering exactly what happens in these ones, especially because I read this one a while ago now. But I enjoy Sarkassi's writing style. It's very light kind of style, considering it's adult fantasy. So I'm gonna put that one between Gardens of the Moon and Inconvenient Indian, I think. Alright, after that I read Dragon Reborn, which is the third book in the Wheel of Time series. And Wheel of Time definitely has the kind of blending problem like a lot more than Witcher does. Like I read I think 4 or 5 of them last year, and they definitely all just kind of like blend together. I don't remember what happened in which book, but I remember Dragon Reborn being quite good. I'm not really sure whether to place it above or below Gardens of the Moon because I'm having trouble remember what happened in that one. I'm gonna go ahead and put it above. That feels right. Alright, next we are breaking up the fantasy with some literary fiction. I read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That one was really like good. It was definitely told in a more like interesting manner with like the time skips and like the little journalism bits. But I really enjoyed that one. I definitely think that if you're looking to get into some literary fiction, you should give that one a shot. But I think it's gonna go in the bottom of the Goodreads pile. So far this is looking very just Goodreads, so I promise there will be some other stuff that goes in other categories soon. Speaking of stuff going in other categories, the next thing I read was The Apollo Murders, and that's going to be the first thing going in not bad, because it was not bad. Anyway, next I read Sorrowland, and this kind of is sci-fi, or like horror, I don't really know what you would call this. And this one, it came like really highly recommended, and I did give it 4 stars. I don't know, it just like didn't hit for me the way I think it did to the person who recommended it, so I think I'm actually gonna put it in not bad, even though I did give it 4 stars, because I think in retrospect maybe I would rate it a little bit more low. Alright, next I read the first Harry Potter book. That's gonna go in the category Harry Potter for obvious reasons, because it's Harry Potter. After that I read the Poppy War, which I did like, but I know a lot of people like loved it, but some elements of it just felt very like YA, like convenient, like oh everybody's like super powerful or whatever to me, and it didn't, I don't know, I felt like the main character, it didn't like land as much. Like I really liked the part at the beginning when they're like in the school, but then as soon as they leave the school I started kind of like losing it. I did still really like it though. I gave it 4.5 stars, so it does need to go in Goodreads, but I'm gonna put it just under Baptism of Fire, I think. Right, next we have Mexican Gothic, which is kind of like sci-fi thriller kind of deal. And this one, I really enjoyed the like vibe of this one. It was definitely very like Gothic, kind of spooky. I know some people don't like the whole like mushroomy thing that's going on, but I kind of enjoyed it, and I'm gonna put it at the bottom of Goodreads. Yeah, that feels right. It was definitely not as like interesting as Evelyn Hugo, but I still really enjoyed it. Alright, then we got some more Witcher. We got Tower of Swallows. I think I rated this one not as highly as Baptism of Fire, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it under Poppy War, I think. Okay, then after that I read the rest of the Harry Potter books, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put them in there. So for obvious reasons, we don't really want to talk too much about Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling on this channel, but I did read them because I already owned them, so I'm going to include them, and I'm going to go ahead and rank them in my preferred order here, if it will let me. Yeah, that would probably be my Harry Potter preferred order. Number 3, number 5, number 1, number 7, number 4, number 2, and then number 6. Alright, after that I read Aragon, and I have a lot of nostalgia for this book, so I probably rated it more highly than it technically maybe deserves to be, but I'm going to put it here just above Poppy War, which I'm sure will be a controversial opinion for some people. And then directly after Aragon I read Eldest, which was a step down. It wasn't quite as good. Aragon is definitely, in my opinion, the best book in the series. And then I read Rasingar after that, which was another step down, I think. It's still good, but I think in the last 2 books of that series kind of start to drag a little bit. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be quite as long as it is, I think, and some of the writing isn't like perfect. So I'm gonna put it at the top of not bad. I still really enjoyed it though. After that we start to get into some Robin Hobb. So we've got Assassin's Apprentice. That was the first one I read, and that one I really enjoyed. It wasn't as good as some of the other ones. So I'm gonna put it just below Gardens of the Moon. I think that feels appropriate. And then after that we have Royal Assassin, which I really enjoyed. I gave that one 4.5 stars. So I think I'm gonna put it just I think I'm gonna put it just below Jade City. It was excellent, but Jade City is just like quite a bit different from things I've read before, so it stands out a lot to me. After that, I read the last book in the Inheritance cycle, and I think it was a good conclusion in a way, but yeah, it just suffers from kind of a lot of the same problems as Berserker, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it in not bad, just under Mexican Gothic. And then I read Assassin's Quest, and I really love this book. This one was a 5-star read for me. I'm gonna go ahead and put it at the top of the chef's kiss category, because Robin Hobb's writing is just in another class. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I kind of feel like Jade City deserves to be up here. Like, I feel like it's better than these books. I feel like Circe should be a bit lower maybe, and I feel like this one deserves to be up here as well. Cause like, I don't know, I feel like somehow my rating system is like gotten messed up. Like, so don't get me wrong, Madeline Miller's books are really good, but they definitely don't have like as much, I don't want to say depth. They're definitely just, I don't know, I just really love me some like high fantasy, and some Achilles, while it is like fantasy, kind of isn't quite on that level. Then we have Red Rising, which although I know a lot of people love this series, I did not love this first book. It felt very like young YA. It definitely did not live up to the hype. And I've heard that like that's like not an uncommon opinion, and that like people are like, oh, you gotta read like the other books, they're way better. And it's like, I just like don't have the time for a series where like you have to get through a couple of books that kind of suck to get to stuff that's actually good. Like, can we not just write good first books? So yeah, that one's gonna go at the bottom, not bad for me. I just like, it didn't inspire me to read more books in that series. After that we have Fires of Heaven. I don't remember what happens in this one. I'm gonna go ahead and put it, because, okay, I know I like the Wheel of Times books, but I don't remember what happens in that one, and so for that reason I'm gonna put it here below Aragorn and above Poppy War. Then we have Fool's Quest. That one was 4 stars. I'm gonna put it at the top of Goodreads. And then after that we have Assassin's Fate. And this is the book I made me cry tier 4. This is like the wrap up of the Fitz and the Fool storyline. And they come in a couple of the series in Robin Hobb's Greater Realm of the Elderlings series, which I haven't finished quite yet. I kind of read them in a wonky order. So I've read this first one, the final Fitz and the Fool trilogy, and then I read the Live Ship Traders series. So I haven't actually read all of the content that involves Fitz, but even in just those 2 series, I got so attached to my boy Fitz. Like, if you love good character work and you're okay with stories that can be a little bit slower at times, you definitely should check out Robin Hobb, because it's just like such good like emotional payoff. Like, yeah, it made me cry, but it was kind of in like a bittersweet way. Like the ending, like if it had just been pure sad, I don't even know if I would have cried, because the way it like worked out just like was so perfect for like the characters and the world and the story, that it hit different. Like, I don't know how else to explain it other than it hits different. And if you don't mind a book that makes you cry, then I definitely recommend reading that series. But do read some other books before you read that last series, just so that you can get more invested in the character. After that we have Cloud Cuckoo Land, and this is, I don't know if you'd call this like lit fic or what you would call this, but it was really interesting. It has like so many like different timelines that are so far apart, which is one of the things that was really interesting, because I was like waiting to see how are they possibly gonna bring these things together, but they do it in a really interesting way, and I'm gonna put it probably here. It was very good. I enjoyed it a lot. After that we have Station 11, which I gave 4.5 stars. Trying to remember what it's about. I think it's the one where there's like a pandemic. I'm pretty sure, like the comic, I think. I read 2 of her books, which is why I'm trying to remember which one is which. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is the one with like the pandemic, and it probably deserves to go here. I remember her writing being very good. After that, I read Dune, and I don't super care for Dune. I just felt that the author went on and on about stuff that was like, I don't know, like philosophical, like ramblings, things that didn't really matter that much to the story, and it was just too long, too slow, and not interesting enough to be that good. After that, I read Shadow of the Gods, and this is coming right up into Chef's Kiss. I think I would put it, I think I'm gonna put it at the top, just because it was so well paced, the characters were interesting, and it ended really well, and I actually just finished Hunger of the Gods, and that is an exquisite sequel, a very good follow-up, so I definitely recommend checking out that series if you're interested in like Norse mythology and fantasy. It's not finished yet, so if you only read finished series, that's just something to be aware of, but I really recommend it. After I read that, I read the book that I unfortunately had to make this You Disgust Me category for, and that is a booktube favorite, The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And the reason that this goes into the You Disgust Me category is because after I read it, I was looking it up on Goodreads, and I discovered that the author based the storyline on something called the 60s Scoop. It's when in the 60s in Canada, they were rounding up First Nations children and sending them to residential homes, which, if you don't know, were horrible institutions where they would strip the children of their cultural identity. They'd force them to speak English and practice Catholicism, and they would get severely punished for speaking their language or trying to hold on to their identity in other ways, or even just for existing and being not white. Honestly, a really disgusting time in history, and I think it's very gross for this white guy to come in, and he even says that, oh, it's not his story to tell, so we wanted to like make a fantasy version, but I don't think that's better. Like, he just tried to make, he took this really horrific time and horrific thing that was done to these people, and he turned it into this like cozy, lighthearted fantasy where the orphanage is like actually like a great place if only there were some good people who cared. And I think it's gross. Like, it's not his place to tell that story, and to turn it into this like feel-good thing just grosses me out. So that is the reason that goes in You Disgust Me, and I wish fewer booktubers would talk about this book. After that, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and this book was okay. It's kind of supposed to be like a slow-paced kind of like character study kind of thing, but Addie's not that interesting, so I enjoyed reading it, but it wasn't like, it's kind of forgettable, honestly, so it's just gonna go in not bad. And then after that, I read Caraval, which was very YA. The plot was full of like weird holes. I had a decent time reading it, but I think, I struggle to put it in what even was this, because Voyage of Freitas was just so bad, so I think I'm gonna put it at the end of not bad, because I still had an okay time reading it. I've heard the next two books are good, or better, but that kind of has the same problem as I had with Red Rising, where it's like, I don't want to read bad books to get to the good ones. How about I just read series that start with good books and continue to be good books? And then after that, I read Legendborn, which was a good YA book. I had a great time with that. It was interesting to see like a YA book that kind of, I haven't seen any that really like touch on like race, and Tracy Deonn just did such like a good job of making race an important part of the book without it just being like just about that. Like, it's about so many things, and the way that she weaves issues of like race and into the story just works like really well. It's so well done. I highly recommend it. I'm gonna put it above Poppy War. I mean, yeah, I just enjoyed it more than Poppy War. I didn't like the second half of Poppy War. After that, I read The Shadow Rising, and I somehow failed to rate this book, but I'm gonna go ahead and just put it with Fires of Heaven and assume that that probably is good. Then we have Queen of the Tearling. I talked about the second book recently and how I didn't really like it as much, but this one was decent. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in not bad. I think I'll put it below Dune. I'll at least give Dune that it's better than this YA book. Bless you. My cat just sneezed. After Queen of the Tearling, I read Witchwood Crown by Tad Williams, and I really enjoyed that one. Where to put it though? I think I'm gonna put it here. And then after Witchwood Crown, I read Sea of Tranquility. And I don't really remember what happened in this book. I think just based on the fact that I genuinely can't really remember what happened in it, I'm gonna have to put it kind of low down. I did give it 3.5 stars, so I think I'll put it here just above Addie LaRue. After that, I read Empire of Grass, which it comes after Witchwood Crown, and this book is again like really good. His writing is really good, but it kind of is just very long and things happen, but like not as many things. Like it is kind of a little bit more about like the characters. I think it just took me a really long time to read this book, and while I did enjoy it, it definitely I think is going to go at the bottom of Goodreads. Although maybe it's definitely better written than Eldest, but it took me a lot longer to read it. I'm gonna put it above Eldest. After that, I read Into the Narrow Dark, which is the third book in that series, and I thought it was gonna be the last one, but no, apparently he is pulling an inheritance cycle, and there's gonna be a fourth one, and I think it's coming out this year, so I have that to look forward to. But this one really picked up. I think this one's probably my favorite one in this series, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it up here. After that, I read Bloodmarked, which is the sequel to Legendborn. Oh, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I did give Narrow Dark 5 stars, so I'm gonna put it up in this category. And then I read Bloodmarked, which was a sequel to Legendborn, and I did really enjoy this book. I know some people didn't think it was as good as the first one, but I actually kind of liked it better, so I'm gonna put it just above it. Then I read A Spoonful of Murder, and this was kind of like a cute, cozy fantasy, but I don't know, I just didn't find it like that interesting, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it just above Caraval. Then I read Sword of Destiny, and this is one that I forgot to rate, so I don't really remember exactly my thoughts on that. I'm gonna go ahead and just put it probably here would be okay. Actually, yeah, there. And then last thing I read was Lord of Chaos, and I really liked this one. It's probably my favorite of the Wheel of Time books I read last year. I'm gonna go ahead and put it second from the top in Goodreads. And then I also read Claire and the Sun. Somehow I missed that one. That one was good. I enjoyed it. It was just like a little bit, I don't know, missing a little bit of something, but I did really enjoy it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it, I think I liked Mexican Gothic better, so I think there's a good spot. So let me just have one. I'm gonna think about these and rearrange some possibly. Alright, this is my final tier ranking of everything I read last year. I definitely have a very high concentration of things that are in the Goodreads category, but I like to think that's just because I know how to pick books that I'm gonna like. So yeah, I really enjoyed this process. It was fun, but the problem was I think it would have been better if I did it earlier when I remembered more about what happened in each of these books. So for this year, I think I might do like 6 months in, do like a ranking of all that I've read so far, and then do another one at the end of the year, just so I have a better memory of like what's going on in these books. But yeah, that's going to be all for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.